You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy M., where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy M.
Episode 46, Calm, Present, and Worthy with Nettie Owens. Today's guest, Nettie Owens from Momentum Accountability, talks about her brave girl journey into entrepreneurship as a professional organizer after a career in computer science and a move across the country with her husband. She talks about what contributes to people being chronically disorganized and how she works with these types of clients. Nettie developed her own methodology for organizing that she trained her team of coaches in and created in the marketplace as a value differentiator. I love that Nettie shares her knowledge about this topic and how it impacts your daily living. Her first book, The Take Control System, explains her approach to organizing and will be back on the market soon. She shares several resources such as the Institute for Challenging Disorganization and NAPO for anyone looking to hire a professional organizer. We talk about the craze inspired by Marie Kondo and her methodology in tidying up, as well as work by Julie Morgenstein, her books and concepts around letting go and shedding. Nettie has taken her organizing skills and business and pivoted her focus towards working with entrepreneurs on setting goals, creating new habits, and implementing actions in their businesses. Her second book, Creating Momentum, will guide readers through the principles of business success, and it actually came to her as a divine download that she took action on. We also talk about why you need to always be investing in yourself and work with a coach to continually transform yourself. She shares how her decision to work with a coach was really the catalyst in her journey, and she talks about all the benefits that she reaped by making this decision. She shares her mantra of calm, present, and worthy, and how it helped her through tough times as she shifted her mindset. Nettie is a true gem and a wealth of knowledge. I'm so glad she reached out to pitch herself to me to be a guest on the show. I know that you, the listener, will garner a nugget or two from our juicy conversation. So let's go and meet Nettie Owens. So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. I'm so glad to have Nettie Owens here with me today. And welcome to the show, Nettie.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me, Tracy.
Yeah, so thank you so much for reaching out to me. We have a mutual connection through Debbie Kevin, and she was one of our guests on the show and talked about her walk on the Camino, among other things. So just knowing that you're a friend of Debbie, you're automatically a friend of mine. So, and I know that you're a professional organizer. So tell us a little bit about how you got into that line of work, or you were interested in that.
Yeah, it's not as exciting as you might think it would be, and I kind of happened upon it, so I've always felt like my steps have been guided. The way my business unfolded, it was too synchronous to be of my own making. So at the time that I started my business, which was in 2004, I'm celebrating 15 years this year. Wow. Very excited about that.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you. But when I began, I was just coming out of having moved across the country with my husband, and I was trained, my schooling was as a computer scientist, and I had just come from being a assistant director of database services. And I found myself looking for a job. I was still consulting back to my firm, and I was watching a lot of TV. And at the time, the TV shows that were on, there were some new organizing shows on. So I'm watching, like, that's really kind of cool. Yeah, that sounds interesting. And then I met somebody who was a professional organizer in this career that I'd never even heard of, because I know you can't imagine it now with the crazy stuff that's real simple. There are lots of organizing shows. You have Marie Kondo's Tidying Up show that just hit Netflix and is causing a craze, and her books and things. But at the time, people really didn't know what professional organizers were. And so I'm like, wow, this is a thing. This is so interesting. And then I think I picked up a book on it. I was like, this is just fascinating, and I think I'd be really good at it. I called my old boss, and she said, I can totally see you doing that. You're going to be on a TV show one day. You're such an organized person. And little did I know that being an organized person was like the least thing that you needed in being a professional organizer. It's like the bare minimum. And there are lots of very organized people who do not make good organizers. Just want to throw that out there.
Well, I was going to say, so is it emotional based? Is it more like psychology of like human behavior?
So I jumped into it, and my first client is what we now call chronically disorganized.
Okay.
And this is what I ended up focusing my work on for many, many years. And chronically disorganized means that the person has been disorganized for as long as they can remember, for a very long time. They've tried other methodologies to remedy their situation, and they haven't worked. It's impacting their daily living, and they just don't see it changing going forward into the future. So my first client, and then every other client after that. I didn't say that's what I did because I just didn't even know it was a thing. But that's who I attracted. I then studied, as much as I could to understand my clients, found chronic disorganization, learned about ADHD and its impact on the brain and your ability to get and stay organized. I became the hoarding specialist in my area. So I looked and found kind of special needs organizing, like situations that were more brain-based, and that was causing an impact in the environment around them. So not necessarily emotional, but definitely there's a neurological aspect to it. And as I grew my business, I brought on other organizers that I trained in my methodology. And one of the questions that I would ask was really to understand, as they were being hired into the company, to understand if they saw the person or if they saw the stuff. Because if they saw the person, then I could work with them, and they could be a good organizer that could help change people's lives. And if their focus was simply on making books neat on a shelf, which is totally fine in your own living room, go to it, enjoy, does not make for a good organizer. So that was my differentiating question. I had a way of asking it, to answer. And that's what we did. I told every person that came into my company that we were, like 90% cheerleader, providing support that people didn't have in any other place where they really felt like failures, because organizing is it's held in such high regard, but it's also just expected that you can do that on your own. And some people can't. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I love that. So chronically disorganized people, where it's impacting their daily living, where they've been that way as long as they can remember. So they may or may not have ADHD.
Right. I mean, there are many reasons why you might have a challenge. Some of them can be situational, can be environmental, can be relational, but a lot of this comes, and those things can impact your brain, which then impacts your thinking. But I would say, a number of clients that were ADHD, OCD, maybe PTSD, lots of Ds, right? They might have a hoarding disorder, anxiety, depression, any of these things, can impact how you're interacting with your environment, how you think, how you make decisions. And organizing is all about making decisions, if you really get down to the root of it. And so if something's impacting your ability to make decisions, it's going to impact your environment and your daily living.
So how would somebody go about hiring you? I mean, they could come through like a company that uses you as a resource for their employees, or one-on-one, like they just come to you and you work with them? Is that kind of your
So,
model?
yeah, so for a long time, that would
Mhm.
have been the way to do it. I actually don't serve very many clients on the organizing side anymore.
Mhm.
My focus has turned to working with entrepreneurs. There's been a really interesting connection that I found between my organizing clients and entrepreneurs, in that in both cases we were looking at setting goals, creating new habits, helping you make decisions, helping you implement things that I'm air quotes know, like you know what to do. It's just sometimes you have a hard time making that happen. So at this point, if somebody called me for organizing, I would likely refer them out to another well-trained organizer, and you can find them. There are many amazing organizers, and I'm always happy to answer this question. But the two places that I look, if you're in the United States, or actually the first one is international, and that's the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, .org. And the second one is NAPO.net. But there's an organizing association in most countries. So
Mhm.
depending on where you are, you can find one that's in your area.
Okay, and I'll put that in the show notes as well. If people are looking to get some help, and that's the other thing is, doesn't the person who's chronically disorganized want to get help? Have to want to get help in order for it to really
Absolutely.
work?
Yeah.
In order
So
to have a transformation.
absolutely. And that's true for any change that you might make in your life. Occasionally I would have a family member or a well-meaning friend call, and that's, we would have a conversation around the effectiveness of working with somebody who's not yet there. But by the time somebody gets up the courage to call, they're ready. And they would call saying, I'm overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. And we just take it from there. And,
Mm-hmm.
those are two, like, your organizer, whomever you hire, should be able to help you navigate both of those questions with ease and have a wonderful time doing it. Most organizers are fun people, and they're happy to see you, and they're happy to make life easier for you. And one of the important aspects of organizing is transferring the skills. So they're not there to come in and do it all for you. They're there to help you learn how to do it.
Right, right. So why do you think there's this craze right now with the whole Marie Kondo? Like, I Netflix binge watched every episode and then have been going room to room doing that. But like, it's just the timing is right. We all feel like we have too much stuff.
Nothing that she's saying is new. So you're right.
Correct.
There's a lot of timing that's going on here. Her books, when they hit the shelves a few years back, were also a craze. And what she's sharing is all good, solid organizing information as far as grouping things together, making the decision once you see the whole, putting things in a spot, assigning a home. Years and years ago, Julie Morgenstein wrote the book Organizing from the Inside Out. And
Oh, I
it's
remember
not that
that.
different, right, from
Right.
Marie Kondo's method. And likewise, Julie Morgenstein also wrote Shed, which Shed Your Stuff, Change Your Life, which started looking at Marie Kondo went on to her second book, which was Spark Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Julie's book talked about the emotional connection
Mm-hmm.
and in organizing. So these are old concepts, right? As far as the organizing timeline. So I kind of think there's a couple things going on. One, we're looking for things that can make us feel good and safe. And one of them is, your environment. That's one thing that you can control. You can create something that feels good, especially when the chaos of the world feels really bad right now. You just don't know what's going to happen next. And there's a piece of this that's just plain awesome marketing.
Yes.
I will say that, like, most organizers are marketing on a shoestring. Marie has been fortunate enough to have aligned herself with a phenomenal marketing company that took her book and her ideas. I'm sorry, any book that says the magic art of tidying up, that takes something as mundane as tidying up and calls it magical, it's going to get attraction. Like, that's just normal. That
Right.
I would expect so much. So I feel like those two things definitely have come together in a wonderful synergy. And now we have people overfilling donation centers and
Yes.
recycling centers and, trash
Yes.
hauling with their, excessive. It's funny because a wonderful organizer, Andrew Mellon, who has talked about the most organized man in the United States or in the world, I'd have to check his website again, but he's talked about how that same obsession with acquiring has now been transferred to be an obsession with letting go, and it's no less toxic. You really need some balance there. You need to think about, why are you acquiring and why are you letting go?
Right. So you've kind of moved from computer data scientist to professional organizer to now your business is really around working with entrepreneurs, kind of launching them, keeping them accountable.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's sort of the natural next progression on your step as you as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I would not have chosen this path if you had told me in middle school, high school, that this is the way my life was going to go. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about.
Right.
It's not like a thing. I don't know. And yet it has, and it's felt right, at each step. I can remember for years in my business thinking, I can't believe this is so perfect. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall, right? This is just amazing. And I love what I still love what I do. I absolutely love what I do, but it was just like, wow, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know how it could get any better. So it's
right. Good. So talk a little bit about how you made the decision to invest in a coach to help you along your path, and why you think that's so important to have not only a good team around you and support yourself with like-minded people, but the benefits of masterminding and being in like a coach, like having a coach to help you. And now you're learning how to do that. So talk about that.
So it was not an easy decision, and I followed my coach for years before I ended up stepping into her program, and it was a big deal. It was a big financial investment, and it was a big time investment. And in doing so, I had told myself, by putting this much money out and this much time out, that I was worth every penny that I was spending on this coach, who was absolutely amazing. So it was a big decision, and it was a big exercise in self-worth and self-value. But what came of that relationship, was tremendous. And I will say that if I had kept investing in low-level kinds of opportunities, I would have gotten low-level kinds of results. But I look at myself and the transition that my business has taken over the last several years, and I know I needed a catalyst for something like that to happen. There's something I'm going to share with you a little bit later.
Okay.
And all of this will make even more sense when that kind of comes out. But you surround yourself with people who are also interested in investing in themselves and making the world a better place by the things that they're doing, and the interactions that they're having. That's a really amazing amount of positive energy that you're pulling together all in one place. All of the people that were in the coaching program with me had either just started their business and were just taking off, right? Mm-hmm. Or had been in business for a long time and had grown this expertise and acumen, and they were ready to keep growing and wanting to go to the next step. So in both cases, there was just so much energy behind it. What has come out, and this is something that I would encourage any person who's looking into any kind of coaching program to look for. You're not just looking to make sure that your coach knows what they're talking about and can guide you in the process. And you want to look for somebody who's several steps ahead of where you are, so that you're not just pulling on each other. But whoever your coach can connect you to should be a determining factor. You should look for a coach that can get you in touch with the people that you want to be in touch with, whether they're at your same level or, several steps above. So what came out of my coaching experience wasn't just the information that I gained and the growth there, but I have friends I didn't have before, and I can't imagine my life without them.
Wow. That's powerful. That's really powerful. Yeah. Yeah. And I think the self-worth, I mean, when you put your money out there and you make that large investment, you're telling the universe that you are worth it. And that what I have found is that I've always made my money back through working with that coach. Mm-hmm. Either I got a new client, I got a new revenue stream, they made me think about something completely different, right. But it's always paid for itself. I've never lost money.
Yeah, and that should absolutely be the case. So if you're in a place where you don't know how you could directly bring in that kind of money to pay for it, even if you don't have it right now, but say that 1 month of a coach causes you to need to bring in like 20 clients, that is not a right fit. Or you're not charging what you should be for whatever you're providing. I don't know, maybe if you're able to bring in 20 clients a day because you sell something small, that's a different story. But you should be able to say, look, I can bring in one client and cover the coaching. Like that should be,
yes.
That should be how it works. Even if it's just one client a month should cover the coaching fees that you incur. And if that's not the case, either, look for a more entry level kind of a program, mm-hmm. or look at what you're charging,
Yes. Yes. Very much so. So talk a little bit about, kind of what you're doing right now with your clients. So you said you're working with entrepreneurs, and a lot of it is similar to the professional organizing. So do you have like programs that you work with people on?
I do.
Oh, good. Okay. Do tell.
When I was a professional organizer, solely, I haven't removed that from my name or anything.
Oh, okay.
I'm still a certified professional organizer in chronic disorganization. So those are the lovely letters that come after my name, and I appreciate very much the value of that. But I wrote a book on how to take control, and it's called the Take Control System. I developed a proprietary system on how to get organized, so that is a thing, and it's not currently for sale, but sometime I think in this next year I'm going to put it back out there for people. I'm working on my next book called Creating Momentum, and it's everything that I'm doing right now when I'm working with clients. So it outlines the 9 principles to sustainable business success, mm-hmm. which I'm happy to name here in just a moment. Mm-hmm. And it's the stuff that businesses that have been around for a long time have in place, and that's why they're sustainable. So you can come in and just be in the community and learn from the other businesses that are in the program, mm-hmm. or you can receive one-on-one coaching and accountability support, or you can really go all in and just be immersed in the kind of momentum, basically, that comes when you're working consistently on your goals and the next right step to take at any given moment. And that's what the programs that I work with, that I've have provided.
Right. I love that. I love that, because it is about creating momentum, mm-hmm. and staying in that momentum energy.
Yes, absolutely. Because I like to say you can give yourself permission by making your goals so big to not actually try and attain them and achieve them. So, for instance, you may have a desire to have $1 million business, and or maybe you have $1 million business, and maybe you desire $1 million client, just one, right? And you say to yourself, "This is my 3-year goal. in 3 years, I'm going to be here in my business. And you can put that little goal on the shelf and pretend, well, you know what, I'm not getting there until 3 years. So today I've got these fires to put out. And today I have clients to serve right now. So I'm going to, it's 3 years out from now. I'll get to that. And if that's your mindset, then you will never, ever achieve that goal. So what I do is I work with my clients to see that vision that's absolutely possible. And then we work backwards to break it down so that they know that today they can take a step that will take them closer to being a millionaire, and that they can create that vision, that 3-year vision for themselves every single day. And it's really powerful. And it doesn't even take very long. I mean, my recommendation is that whatever step you take takes less than 15 minutes.
Right.
But with that kind of consistent action, most people reach their goals much faster than what they've even set.
Right. So you touched on mindset. In your years, your 15 years as an entrepreneur, how much of your success has been based in your mindset?
Probably all of it.
Right. No, that's the right answer. It's all mindset.
If you don't believe you can do it, and there have definitely been times in my business that have not gone well, and my mindset has been in the toilet, and I didn't believe I could achieve the things that I was even asking for. In fact, when I started the coaching program, we're on video. I mean, we're not on video.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm going to grab something and I'll show it to you, and I'll read it out loud. It hangs right here next to me on my desk. So at the same time that I started this program, I pulled all 3 of my children out to homeschool them. 2 of them have special needs. It was a really intense time. My husband was working full time, and he was also in his PhD program. There really wasn't a lot of time, and I was not being successful truly on any level. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Nothing seemed to be working, and I had to remind myself of who I was and what I was doing. So I made this board, and it says, I am calm, I am present, I'm worthy. And I would go for runs in the morning, and I would just say it over and 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 over in my head while I ran, just beat the pavement with the words until I believed it. And every day I would say, I have all the time I need. Time was expansive. I have all the time I need. So when things started getting really hairy and hectic, I have all the time I need. And I would just ask, my faith base is Christian, and it influences me because I believe that we are all God's children, and that there's something within us, God's within us, that and that comes through. And so I would ask every day, I would say, please just use me, whatever you need, just use me, use my hands, use whatever you've given me. And I would ask for that. And that mindset got me through the beginning. And then what came after was all the learning that I got from my coach, and all the shift that started happening in my business. And that was another point in my life where I wouldn't have expected the outcome that came from it. I wouldn't have expected to be talking to you about productivity and accountability and, working on my second book and any of that kind of stuff, which, by the way, I'm working on with Debbie Keevan.
Oh, okay, great.
She's amazing. There's so much transformation that had to happen. My coach at the time, as I was getting towards the end of the program, she's like, I don't even recognize you from when you walked in the very first day, because that very first day I wasn't calm, I wasn't present, and I didn't feel worthy.
Wow. That must have been a lot of courage that you had to muster up to make that decision to invest in yourself at that point in time.
It's probably the first time that I really asked for something. my husband and I came together, I didn't even want to tell him. I'm like, I want to sign up for this coaching program. Why can't you just read a book about it? Why do you need a coaching program? What is this, what's the value? I really feel like this is going to help me. And to have, that was really that first time. And so, spoiler alert, you're asking what's the bravest thing. And that was one. There's two things that came to my mind around that brave question. And the first one was asking to participate in this coaching program.
Good for you. Good for you. And look at the transformation that you've made and all that you've are now putting out into the world, because that's helping other people. You're serving other people through that decision to make that investment in yourself. So talk a little bit about homeschooling your children, because that's tough.
Yeah. And not highly recommended when you have no time to do it, but we eked through for a couple years before we decided that they needed more structure than I was really able to give at home while also running my own business. And I know that some folks can do it and do it well, and I have good friends that do it and do it well and run a business, and it's amazing. But for two of my children, they needed more support and structure than I could provide. One of them, however, she's very independent, and she's still homeschooled, and she's thriving in it. It works really well for her. We kind of have a nice team going on. I'm working, she's working, and we come together for lunch. We talk about big ideas, and I'm there to help her when she needs help with math or whatever might come up. I made the decision to homeschool first, and then I made the decision to join the coaching program. So, I would say that was not the most perfect timing that I ever could have chosen, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah. You do what you got to do, and what seems to make sense at the time. So, and then you just correct and adjust. I mean, I think that's business, that's life, When you get new information in and you have to make a different decision, then you reevaluate.
And we did.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what's that second brave thing that you did?
So the second brave thing that I did is, I teach people, or I was teaching people on a day-to-day basis how to let go. And I let go of my organizing business. It seemed at the time to be ripped apart. It just, I started out the year really thinking this was going to be like the year we hit it big. The systems were all going to be working. I had 6 organizers at the time. And between January and June, all of my employees left.
Wow.
And it was a really difficult time. There was quite a bit of chocolate and beer involved in this time of my life.
Chocolate and beer is good.
Chocolate and beer. It's all I needed. And in the past, and this is what's made it brave, because the old me would have grasped, like just held on for dear life to the company. And I would have done anything. I would have hired like a crazy woman. I would have done whatever I could to make that business work. And I know I could have. I mean, I totally could have brought it back to the way it was. I could have had, been back training. It would have been better than ever before. I had more information and knowledge than I did when I started. But that wasn't what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to let it go. And it was really hard. It was really hard to not feel like a complete failure. It was really hard to say this was the next best step to get me to where I wanted to go to help people. But if I still had my organizing company the way I did, I absolutely would have been helping people, but I'm helping people on a much larger scale. When I'm working with an entrepreneur and ensuring that the vision they have actually comes to fruition, they're touching thousands of people. And, so even if I worked with say 10 entrepreneurs, which is low because I work with more than that. I mean, that's 10,000 people, right?
Correct.
And working in residential organizing, it was so meaningful, and I loved my clients, but I was only ever going to be working with hundreds of people. I would have never, maybe thousands, but not tens of thousands and not hundreds of thousands. And that's definitely a possibility at this point.
Right. Yeah, it's almost like the pebble that goes into the pond and the ripple effect. You're the behind the scenes person that's impacting the ripple effect. And that ripple effect is so much grander and bigger. Yeah.
Which is interesting that you use that, because I, at every presentation that I used to give about organizing, I would give away a stone, and I would let people know that one small step was going to be the catalyst that touched every part of their lives. And so it's interesting that you
That is
that image.
Yeah. Have you ever read the book, The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer? You need to read that book.
I'm writing that down here.
So The Surrender Experiment is written by a man named Michael Singer. And he too had a situation that he needed to let go in order to be able to touch more people. Something that, yeah, you need to read that book. And I love that book. I've read it like 3 times. It's really, really good. And, it's a lot around letting go and being comfortable with letting go, because when you let go, you create the space for something new and bigger and better to come into your realm.
Yes. It's so interesting.
So many of us don't know that at the time.
Right. So all of the lessons that I taught and learned as an organizer, and all of the information that I gained in, working with the population that I did, immediately translated to not only my own life and situation. And I had to become, I had to advise myself as I would have advised my clients in the past. And I often think about that, that my, it's really just sharing my experience and what's worked for me. The parallels are just too tremendous.
Yeah. Well, and you know what, the people that you're helping, you're just a few steps ahead of them. Like you said, like when you look for a coach, they shouldn't be on the same level as you. You want somebody that's gone to the place where you want to go, right? And so now you're going to those places, and so and you are building upon all that knowledge that you had even back from the computer scientist and the data scientist, because I'm sure you talk about metrics with your clients and setting those goals, and like, how are you going to know if you're successful, and how can you take that right next action? Like all of that is just a build to help you while you're working with these entrepreneurs who are then going out with whatever their service is as an entrepreneur, whatever their business is.
Yes, absolutely.
So they're serving people out in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to just ask you about the writing process. So you've written one book, and then you're getting ready to write a second one. What has that been like for you? Do the ideas just drop into you? You know what it is that you're going to say, or like, do you journal? Like, what's your process for
I have
writing?
been so fortunate, and this is why I say that everything has been divinely inspired. The first book was born out of all of the organizing clients that I had ever worked with, and all of the classes that I had ever taught. I used to teach regularly at the college on organizing concepts that's local here to me, and for everything that I've done, it's been an inspiration. So there have been times. I'm thinking, for this book, for the previous book in particular, the first thing that came was a class called Dreams to Action, and then from that, I started learning how to build, teachable kinds of systems. I was working with another friend about doing a virtual coaching kind of program, and and we just pulled everything together. And in a month, we pulled everything together. I took all of my material that I'd ever done, I organized it into categories, and I made it into a book, basically, but it wasn't printed. And it wasn't until I started working with the coach that I mentioned, one of my employees said, people really like tangible stuff. So can we just like find a printer? Like, they could print this, right? And I said, yeah, fine, print it. It's, it'll be great if you print it and we can send it off to them. And it wasn't until the day that book arrived printed. This is it. It's totally beat up and battered at this point. That it arrived printed, that I went, oh my God, I wrote a book. Like, it didn't even sink in that everything I had pulled together was a book. Which it might sound obvious, but that it didn't click. That's the left brain in me, right? So for this particular book that I'm working on for creating momentum, I woke up at 2 a.m. and I did not go back to bed until I had written the complete outline of the book. And then I went back to bed. And then I called Debbie in the morning and said, we need to talk. I have something for you. And everything that I'm doing now was basically born from that download. And everything that I teach in my momentum programs, all the accountability work that I do, came to me as an inspiration when I was taking a shower one morning in November. So everything that I never ask for it. It's always just been given, and I act on it, and acting on it has been the important step. Not to be missed.
Yes. No, there's something to water too. I get my best ideas in the shower.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I need my shower every day just to know what the heck I'm doing.
Yes. That's great. Well, I just have so enjoyed talking to you and meeting you and following your path, and just excited to see what's next.
I know. It's when's the next one going to hit? That kind of is.
No, this is exciting. This is really exciting. And I think there's a need for people like you out in the world. I think that, and I don't know if you work with men and women, or, just women, or And so, just, providing that support, and, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing today if you wouldn't have said, I am worthy and I'm going to figure this out and I need help and I'm going to get a coach, and that's the point I think a lot of people miss. Yes. And then they end up living with regrets.
Or just not even, maybe they don't live with regrets. They just never get to where they're going. It's
kind of sad.
It is kind of sad. So I'm really thankful for that step. And like I said, it wasn't necessarily the right time from my perspective. It was the right time. It was when it was supposed to happen. So.
Right. So if people are trying to find you, and your programs and your books and everything, what's the best way for them to find you?
At this point, the best way to find me is by going to momentumaccountability.com. And that will take you to at least one page. You can find my blog there, and all of the resources that I talk about. Anything you want. Just I would also say I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn and on Facebook. And it's pretty easy to find me. There aren't too many Nettie Owenses out there in the world.
Great. Well, I'm going to put those links in the show notes. So I just want to thank you, Nettie, for being on the show and for reaching out to me to be on the show. Our show has now been downloaded in 27 countries. So I know it's touching a lot of people. And we're just getting started. And I really want to feature people like you, other brave girls that are out there having the courage to say yes to themselves and, trying to make the world a better place.
I think it's amazing what you're doing, and I love that your message is being spread far and wide.
Yes, because we all need each other to rise up together. But I also liked your I am calm, I am present, I am worthy, and I have all the time that I need. Those are great mantras. Great mantras.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.